Hello and welcome to this artist talk with Iliana. I would like to start off by acknowledging that AANM is located on Treaty 1 territory and the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene people and the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to moving forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. I'd like to thank you all for being here. Today, we decided to do this interview as cats. We thought it would be interesting and fun to do something a little bit different. So I'd like to say a great hello and meow to you, Iliana. Thank you for joining us. Iliana is a local artist who works in a variety of mediums, her favorite being photography and textiles. Her textile works are on permanent display at the Center of Hope and Union Gospel Mission and worn by various individuals around the world. Iliana's paint and pottery works were showcased during a group show in 2019 at Artbeat Studios and can be found in various homes. Yesterday is her first solo show and the first exhibition showcasing her love of photography. Hello, Iliana. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, thank you for having me.
All right, so let's just get right in there. Let's start with question number one. What
Okay.
motivates you as an artist?
Oh, the need to create. It's such a drive. It's a pull. It's just up there with breathing. Designing, working with color, it doesn't really get much better than that. With photography, it's also deeper. It's to learn more. I like close-ups, and when you take the time to look up close, you can see so much more. That flower that looks like it's just a solid flower, it actually has freckles. And that dragonfly's wing, his left wing is different than his right. So you can see so much more with the assistance of a camera. Sometimes it's curiosity. How does, like, especially with a camera, how does the camera see this versus how do I see it? So I see light, fluffy clouds, and then the camera, you look through the camera, and there's like, is that a dove? Is it a bird? Or is it a badly drawn Twitter icon? And then you change the settings, and so that you have more, like, less contrast, and so it's deeper, and all of a sudden you have this angel. And I think that that's really cool. And then there's also, just the fact that art being a language, and so then it's a means of expressing oneself in terms of what you're feeling and what you're experiencing, or what everything else. Like, it just opens it up so that there's just so much. So the flower is blue, but it's beautiful, and it makes me happy. And so uh, or you're looking at the setting, and you know in front of you it's sunny, but off to the side there's clouds coming in. So to me, it's easy to kind of get motivated. Perhaps it's a little bit harder to keep focused, but
Very interesting. I really like the idea that you're talking about how when you use photography, that you can change a setting to change an image to find something that wasn't there before.
yeah,
That's very
it, it, it
interesting.
it's very interesting how a camera can see things differently than our human eye does.
Yes. And it allows you to focus on a specific point.
Yeah,
Uh, Very interesting.
and
Very
bring it
interesting.
in too tighter so that you can see things better and more clearly. I think the default is like, why wouldn't the dragonfly? So why wouldn't the dragonfly's wings left and right be the exact same? And they are in cases, but they aren't in all cases. And that so it makes it look like okay, like dragonfly wings, are they like fingerprints? You know, their form of our fingerprints, and so that's really interesting. I think that's interesting and cool.
Yes, very much. Great. So, from what I'm hearing, what motivates you is kind of the ability to see stuff differently
Yeah,
and to focus on the happiness, what makes you happy, your curiosity. Is
yeah.
that right?
Yeah, yes, a lot
Great.
of things, right?
Yeah, of course. And now, do you have a certain artist or art style or artwork that you really identify with that really moves you?
Uh, in terms of photography, like I not really. I just
Yeah,
like taking pictures of people and places and things that I like or that are inspiring or that I want to share or want to remember. I do like close-ups,
yeah.
and I wouldn't really say that there is a particular artist. What's interesting perhaps is that I have a friend that after watching me do photography for a while, he's now starting to do close-ups. He never really did them before. And every time as he's loading up and he's getting his camera in place and he's about to click the picture, he goes, "I'm taking an Ileana shot." So I think,
So, so you have a style then. You have a
so
photography style.
so it is a style, but
Yeah,
I don't know that it mirrors anybody else's.
right.
I
Yep.
there are some artists I know who do extreme close-ups in there, and there is a very famous artist who does extreme close-ups of flowers, but don't think I don't think I'm there yet. I don't
Yeah,
think I'm to be in comparison with them. And it's not that I consciously think about like, oh, how would that artist do this?
right.
I just zoom in on what I find interesting.
Great. And have you found that your art practice has changed over time? I'm guessing that the medium has changed.
Yeah, yeah, yes, exactly. So when I first started photography, my very first camera, it was a Kodak point and shoot camera. And I mean, I waited a long, long time to get that camera, and I was ecstatic that Christmas I got that camera. And it was great because that, it was very quick and it manually adjusted, and I kept using that camera even after I got my Nikon camera.
Hmm.
Had it. I also got a reverse ring, and I used the reverse ring a lot. And I had some filters, and I played around with that, and I had fun with some of these filters. I'm having fun with the filter right now. and but then after that, when digital came out, they didn't have a lot of space. I did get a Sony camcorder that's digital, and I loved that. I was using it not as a camcorder, but as for single shot photography.
Right.
And what was great about it was that, it had such a big hard drive, and the batteries, they're monstrous, but possibly they could last up to 8 hours. So with two of them, then if you wanted to go out on a day and do nonstop photography, you could. Uh,
Yeah.
that's it's pretty big, and with the flash and everything else. So for day to day, I usually just use my iPhone, and most of the photos part of this collection are taken on the iPhone. There's a couple that were taken with the camcorder.
Great. Well, then, if we're talking about the iPhone, do you have any tips for people when they take photos with the iPhone?
Tips?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I would say be patient,
Okay.
and take lots of photos. Don't worry, like zoom in maybe a little bit closer to some, zoom back. Sometimes what you think is going to be the most interesting shot isn't.
Right.
So just take it from a lot of different angles. Keep your phone charged and on you, and the other thing I do, but that some people find annoying, is that I keep the grid on my phone so
Okay.
that I can, if I wanted to use the grid to help me line things up, then I can use that. I find that it doesn't bother me having the grid on,
Right.
so I often will just keep that on.
Those are great tips. Keep your phone charged, take lots of pictures, different angles,
Yeah,
zoom up.
yeah.
Because I guess the best thing about these digital images is you could have thousands and then you go through them later and see what
Which,
works, what doesn't.
which is another tip too, right?
Okay.
When you've decided that if you've taken Like I know when I'm trying to capture lightning around a building. So I may take hundreds trying to get
Right,
that lightning shot. Well, you don't want those hundreds that didn't get the lightning shot, so delete them.
right. So that's another important step is to cull your photography and to
Yeah,
not keep it all, but to hone it down and keep the
yeah,
good ones and get rid of the bad.
yeah.
And then just to follow off that, do you ever edit your photographs after? And if you do you do it on your phone, on a computer? How do you do the editing if you do?
Well, uh, if if possible, I would prefer to take a picture again rather than edit it. So I would prefer to have the picture as close to perfect uh, as I can get it. And by perfect, it's
Right.
necessarily perfect. It's what it's interesting how I want it to look. So I would prefer to have that done. Probably the thing I do most, I would say, is cropping.
Right.
And then second is playing with the intensity of light. Do I like it better with less light or do I like it better with more light? And sometimes I do it on the iPhone directly. Uh, and other times I will do that on my computer. The great thing right now is that with the way technology is, I mean, you can take and save all your pictures as long as they're fairly good, and you can when you go to the print station, they even have a crop. Like there's so many tools out there for doing basic cropping and enhancing of like as long as your picture is clear, enhancing or changing the color. Uh, I don't necessarily change that a lot because I find that then sometimes, it looks kind of a little more cartoony. So it looks like my face does right now, right? It looks kind of like someone cut something out and put it on top.
Right.
So yeah, I try not to do too much of that editing. I haven't done much of really more extreme editing. I know some photographers who do more extreme editing, and they can create very interesting images, but I haven't really done that. I tend to keep mine pretty simple.
Great. Um, so when you take oh, excuse me. When you do your photography or your artwork, is there a message or a theme that you often use?
Well, reoccurring themes are flowers and water, nature.
Yes.
Um, I will spend I've spent
Yeah.
years of my life, zooming in and retaking, trying to capture the exact moment, when that spray comes up, it's hitting the dock and it's
Right.
coming up, or the lightning onto the building. Um, and I also have a couple things that I do when I'm on holidays. So one thing that I do is that if I see a maple leaf or if I see a Canada goose when I'm on holidays, I have to take their picture because it's
Yes.
Canada and they're in they're in France with they're in just walking down the street in Paris and there's a maple leaf. Well, I take a picture of that, or we're in the nation's capital, and so I'll take a picture of the maple leaf, which is where the maple leaf in the exhibit is from. That was fountained in Ottawa. And
Great.
the other thing that I don't do it a lot, but is Christianity. And I just find that when I have the opportunity to do something that's related to religion, it just seems to be so powerful.
Yeah. Great. Do you have a favorite artwork that you've done that you really like?
Artwork. Okay. This is a difficult question. I mean,
Yeah.
everything has its own merit and makes it kind of special and delightful. So how do you pick one? I mean, I had a hard time going through my photos and limiting it for the sake of the show.
That's right.
Um, but in answer to that, I'm gonna go with what first kind of popped in my head when you
Sure.
asked me that question. And so today, what first popped into my head is um, Guinness one rainy afternoon. And, um, when we first were talking about this show, I probably would have said yesterday. And what Guinness and yesterday kind of have in common is that I look at them and I see possibilities.
Right.
Guinness isn't, it was taken through a window of a bus, and the bus window is not perfectly clean. So it's
Right.
not, this, and I haven't fixed the window at all. I've just left it
Right.
the way it is. But I find that that is interesting. And like, what do you do on a rainy, what do you do on a rainy day?
Right.
And what was in for me, the beauty of that photo was the raindrops, the way that
Yes.
they appeared and the lines of rain. I'm gonna
And
go with Guinness.
yeah, Guinness. It's beautiful. I love that one. And so do you have just to draw off that, do you have a dream project that if you had all the funds and materials, or you can go anywhere in the world to do your photography or anything like that. Do you have a dream art project?
Well, I mean, pyramids. Wouldn't that be fantastic to go and
Yes.
take pictures of the pyramids? But also, well, I have a little story. And
Okay.
so I was on holidays in Salt Cay. That's part of Turks and Caicos. And we went to this little island, which might be called Gibbs. I'm not sure if it even had a name. And so I'm I was kneeling on the ocean floor because there there was a bunch of stingrays that came up, and so we had fed them little bits of fish, and the fish was gone. But after that, the stingrays came up, and there's, I don't know, I think 5 of them, and they came up and they had their, you can't really see me, I don't think, came up into here, and so their head
Okay.
was here, and like a head was here, and a head was here, and then back in here, and lying also on top of each other. So like there was me, and then there was like this skirt of stingrays with their stingrays sitting out. And I had, just before this, I had handed off my camera to another diver, and I'm going like, take this picture. This is for the cover of National Geographic.
Yay.
Come on, take this photo. Like, how often do you see a girl wearing stingray skirt? And the person was too afraid to take the photo. But I think that would be really amazing to have a photo it, on the cover of some magazine that is known for photography. So whether it's National Geographic or Dive or Daily Bread or the Island Times, something where to be up there with
Yeah.
that quality, that would be something
So,
that's
so I guess
a long way off.
in a way you've also answered my next question, which is what's your goal professionally? So to get your photography on a magazine cover, that's
Yeah, well, and it would be
great.
nice to more so make a living at it,
Yeah.
and to be able to do it more full time. Because it's,
Right.
if you're looking for a hobby, I highly recommend photography.
Great. And so my last question for you is
Okay.
what's the best art advice you've ever been given?
Okay. Um, well, I guess so. In terms of verbally told, told, perhaps one of the best things I was told is watch where you're going,
Oh,
and especially when you're walking down the street and you're knitting or reading, or you got the camera in front of you and you kept trying to go closer to the edge to get that perfect shot, then, watch where you're going is kind of good advice. Um, the best advice that I had read, it has to do with taking lots of shots and knowing that, probably only 10% of your shots are going to be good. And that is true for all time, because when you first start, you know, your your pictures are probably better as you go along, And so then you still are probably saying my best photos are still probably only around that 10%. And then to be ruthless and get rid of that other 90%. But if I was saying something to you, I would say to like trust yourself and not necessarily let's like consider where the criticism is coming from and is it valid,
Right.
and and not to discount the fact that while perhaps the photo isn't 100% clear, that it still can't be interesting and valuable, worthwhile, and or even if it's awful, but it's the only baby picture you have, keep it,
Right.
right? So trust
That
yourself.
trust yourself. Perfect advice. Well, Ileana, thank you so much for taking this time out of your day to speak with us and tell us about your experiences and your advice. I'm excited to go out there with my phone and start taking pictures as spring comes. And
Yay, do it. Do it. You want some lovely memories from every year.
that's
So
right. So thank you so much again, and thank you everyone for watching. And to see the full exhibition, visit our website at aanm.ca and click on to online exhibitions. And thank you again for joining us.
thank you.
Meow.
Bye.